VLANs. We have created VLANs, and we have seen how we can do this VLANs and why we create VLANs and how we can create the VLANs. So I have already did created the VLANs. These are the different types of VLANs we have. Basically, we have a default VLANs and the VLANs which we create, that is called user VLANs, that we create manually. Other than that, we can say the native VLAN. Native VLAN is also same like the default one, which is belongs to the trunk port. Then management VLAN is also just a VLAN which we create. It's like a user VLAN but separated from the other VLANs only for management purpose. That means we want to connect the switch remotely and we want to manage the switch, so we use this management VLANs. These are the advantages of VLANs. These are the purposes of purpose of VLAN. That means we create VLANs. Like we want to break the single broadcast domain into multiple broadcast domain. Then we want to put a security, like we want to separate some machines or some devices from others. Then we can, in this VLANs, it gives me the flexibility that we can, without moving the physical devices, we can move the VLAN, one port from one VLAN to other VLANs. Then it is scalable also. That means we can scale the network, we can create a big line, multiple switches, and we can create VLANs for that switches. It is also cost effective because separating the LAN, we can separate it by routers. Routers are costlier, so we can use this VLAN to separate the LAN into virtual LANs. So it can save our money also. Now, if suppose we have two switches, for example, if we have devices which is not able to fit into one switch, then we can add those devices into other switch. Now this is what is scalability, and it is also giving you VLANs. VLANs is giving you easily scalable things. For example, here in our packet tracer, if I say, so here in my packet tracer, what I have here, I have this switch, and in this switch I have these 6 devices connected, and for these 6 devices I have created these 3 VLANs, VLAN A, B and C. Now I need more devices to add, but this switch, suppose this switch does not have enough port to add these more devices. So what I did here, I added one more switch. That means I want to scale my network. So this switch, I connect the other devices. That means I can say the remaining devices I connect here. Now these remaining devices must be in the same VLAN. They must be in the same VLAN belongs to this switch. For example, this VLAN name I have given A, but suppose this is the VLAN for, I have created the VLAN for sales department. So all the machines who is working for the sales department must be into the same VLAN and they do the communication. So these 2 machines are in the sales department. Now in this switch also we have these 2 machines, and I want them to also be in the same department, in the same segment. That means this machine P7 or P8 must do the communication between P1 and P2. But these 2 devices are connected into 2 different switches. And also I want that these 2 devices must not do any communication with these other machines of the other segments or other VLANs, or maybe we can say other departments. So what we do here, in this switch I also do the same configuration, like I want these 3 VLANs here, and I want these machines to be a member of these VLANs. So these ports I will add into this VLAN. Let's do that first. So I will go to the switch first, this one. Here I have already created these things. So I'll go here, and on this switch I'll go to configuration mode. First I will give the name to this switch. This will be our switch 2. Okay, so this is switch 2. Now I will create VLANs here first. If we see here, show VLAN brief. So there is only default VLANs we have, and all the ports all the interface is member of that default VLAN. So what I will do here, I will create those VLANs first. So VLAN 2, and the name for the VLAN I will use the same name, AA. This is the same name which I have used here in this switch. Then exit. Then I will create VLAN number 3. The name for this VLAN will be B. Exit. Then I will create VLAN number 4, and this VLAN will have a name of C. So now I have created the VLANs. Now what I will do, I will add these 4 machines. That means I will add these ports. I will make this port member of this VLAN, this port member of this VLAN, this port member of this VLAN. This is port numbers, interface number 0/1, 0/2, then 0/3, 0/4. 0/5, 0/6. So let's do that also. So if we check right now, do show VLAN brief. So the VLANs are there, but they are still not have any ports. So we will add the ports. So interface, I will use range command to use 2 interface options like fast Ethernet 0/1 and 2, and I'm going to add these ports into switch port mode access, and then switch port access VLAN number 2. Now I will add other VLANs, other ports. So then port number 3 and 4, I will change them into access mode, and then I will change them into VLAN number 3. Then I will go for VLAN port number 5 and 6. I will change them to access, and then I will put them into VLAN number 4. So what I did here, I created the same name VLANs and I added those ports into those VLANs. Now we have same VLANs in this switch also, and we have same VLANs on this switch also. That means these VLAN machines, these VLAN PCs should connect this other switch VLANs, because they are same VLANs. They are under the same VLAN. But right now you see these switches are not connected. So what I will do, I will connect these 2 switches also. So I will go for the connections. I will use automatic connections, but because these 2 switches are same devices, so we need cross cable to connect these 2 switches. So it will choose automatically. So I will click on this switch, and then I will go to click on this switch. So basically it uses the cross cable. These are straight cables and these are cross cable. As we can see here, this is copper crossover. Now I have connected the switches. Now if I want to connect from this P7 to P1, it should connect, because they are both switches are having the same VLANs, and the name of the VLANs are same. The port of the number of the VLAN is also same, so they should connect. Let's try that. So this machine IP is 192.168.1.7. This machine IP is 192.168.1.1. So let's try from this machine to try to ping these 2 machines, 1.1 and 1.2. So I'll go here in this machine. I'll go to the command prompt. and I will try to ping 192.168.1.1. And it is not connecting. It is not connecting. Now why it is not connecting? Instead we are having the same name VLAN, same number VLAN, and we connected the switches also. But why they are not connecting? Because now what we have here, we have this switch 1 and this is switch 2. This is our switch 1 and this is our switch 2. Now what we have VLAN A, B here, and the same VLAN I created also here. Now when I try to ping from this machine to this machine, like VLAN A to A, VLANs are same. Now when I try to ping from this machine to this machine, what I did here, I connect them together via this separate port. So for example, I connected them with this port. Now when I try to ping from this machine to this machine, instead they belongs to the same VLAN, but still we are not having a communication. Now why? First reason is this port, which in this switch, which we connect to this other switch, which is here in this switch, they both don't belong to this VLAN here. So first basic thing, they don't belong to any VLAN, not VLAN A, not VLAN B, and same here, they don't belong to VLAN A or even not belong to VLAN B. Then what happened? Simple reason is what? Our one VLAN data cannot go to other VLAN. This port belongs to default VLAN, because I have not changed the VLAN membership for that. Right now I have not changed any membership of this particular port. So by default this port goes to VLAN 1, that is the default VLAN. And because it is in the default VLAN, it cannot have any communication with these other VLANs A or B. So when this machine sends the data for this machine, it goes to the switch and switch sees that okay, this data is for the machine, but it only send the data to that particular VLAN, only to VLAN A. It will not send the data to any other VLAN or any other port. This is one reason. The other reason is what? That when you connect these two switches, and suppose maybe, let's say, we can just assume it that this machine sends the data to this machine for this machine. Let's assume it will not happen, but let's assume the data will go to this port. It will not go, but suppose it will go to this port and then it will exit from here. Now it will exit from here and it will reaches to this switch and it will enter into this port. Now when it enters into this port, now switch has to decide here that data is for which VLAN. Is it for VLAN A or is it for VLAN B? Now by default, remember, it will not happen that the data will go to this port, because this port does not belong to any other VLAN. But for example, if it goes to this port and reaches to the other switch, now this switch has to decide that the data which come from the other switch, now it has to send the data to these VLANs. Now where it will show, where it will send the data, that is it has to decide. So how this switch to understand or identify that the data which came is for VLAN A or VLAN B? So this is also the other reason. So for making it work, what we need is what? First requirement is that whenever any data comes for the VLAN, it also must go to this port. Then when the data goes out from this port, it must have the ID of VLAN. That means in the data it must had the tag for the VLAN number or VLAN detail. Otherwise it will reach to the switch 2 and it will not understand that the data belongs to which switch. So this is identification of the VLAN, or this is what tagging the VLAN. So we have these option available for this in Cisco switches. We have option to convert a port into trunk port. By default, when we connect any device into the port, by default it will go for access mode. It will go for access link. Access links that are only part of one VLAN and are referred to as the native VLAN of the port. Any device attached to an access link is unaware of the VLAN membership. That means when you have an access link, then it will not have any information about VLAN. And these devices just assume it is part of the broadcast domain with no understanding of the physical network. And that means whatever data goes on this port, this link, it does not have any information about the switches, any information about the VLAN, that which VLAN data is coming and which VLAN data is going. These ports are very simple, and these ports are simple to connect the machines and end devices. And that is why when we add any port into the VLAN, what we do, we change them into access port. We run the command switch port mode access, so that the link will hard-coded manually configured access link. In other hand, we have another link which is called trunk link. This trunk link is used to connect two different switches. What is the benefit of this trunk link? This trunk link by default member of all the VLANs available in that switch. That means whatever the VLAN we have, it will become the member of all the switches. Otherwise, you know what, if I want to do the simple way, then what I have to do here, instead of connecting this, I will do what, I will use one port from this VLAN and I will connect this to this VLAN. I can do this also. That means what, whenever this machine sends any data, so it will go to this port also, and it will go to this port also, and from this port it will reach to the other switch, and then it will reach to this machine. But doing this is what is a problem, because if you want to connect one-to-one VLANs, that means you need one more port for this VLAN also, and that will connect this VLAN of other switch. This is only two VLANs I have. If suppose I have 10 VLANs, then I need 10 extra ports to connect, and it can be very difficult. So we can't use like this. So what we use is, we use a separate link to connect. Now when you connect the links to other switch, by default the link will be access. It will go to become the access link. Now access link is not having any membership or information about any VLAN. It is just feel like it is a part of a single domain. Now whether it is in the VLAN 1 or whether it is in VLAN A or VLAN B, it will only accept the packet from that particular VLAN. It will not have an option to accept the other VLAN information, other VLAN packets, and it reaches to the destination, then it will only go, the data will only go to that particular VLAN which is the port is member. It will not go to any other VLAN. Just like this VLAN, these ports are member of VLAN 1. So they will only send and receive the data from VLAN 1 to 1. They will not send data from VLAN 1 to VLAN A or VLAN B. Now, when we convert this link into trunk, then what happened? This link, this port will become member of all the VLANs we have in this switch. That means we have this VLAN A and B on this switch 1. So this port will become member of these two VLANs or any VLAN we have. That means if any data come or go for this VLAN, from this VLAN, it will also go for this port. And on this switch also, when we convert it into trunk, this port, then what happened? When any data comes for this VLAN, it will also reach to this other VLANs, all the VLANs of that switch, VLAN A also and VLAN B also. That means the data which is coming to this port, it also go to the VLANs available. If data is going out of this port, will also go for the other VLANs. That means what it do here in the trunk port, it has an information when the data send and receive on this port, it has an information about VLANs. It actually do what? When data go out of this trunk port, it tag the data into, it do what? It tag the data with the VLAN ID. So when the data received on the other switch, the switch opens the packet and it sees that data belongs to which VLAN. So when data comes from VLAN A, so this port will do what? It will add the VLAN ID A, and then it sends the data on that port. Now the data will go and receive on this port on the other side. So it will do what? It can accept the data, and it knows that the data is from trunk port. So it can open the port and it can open the data and it can see which VLAN data is it. So if it sees A, then it will send it to A. If it sees B, then it will send it to B. That is the benefit of this trunk port and trunk link, because it is aware of the VLAN ID. So when data come and go from this link, it has an information about VLAN. That data belongs to which VLAN. So instead of connecting these VLANs directly, what we can do, we can connect the port directly and convert the port into VLAN. We convert the port into trunk port. Now, if we want to convert the port into trunk, or we want to convert the link into trunk, then we need the port at least 100 Mbps. At least 100 Mbps minimum, or we can go up to 1 Gbps. Because if you are having 10 VLANs, then all the VLANs data will go from that particular single link. So the link must be at least 100 Mbps. At least 100 Mbps, and also it must support this VLAN tagging protocol, ISL or 802.1q. Now ISL is not used. Now all the switches use 802.1q protocol for trunk port. It is a trunking protocol. So it do what? It do the VLAN identification. So what is VLAN identification? It is to keep track of frames traversing a switch bake fabric. VLAN identification is used to identify which frames belong to which VLANs, and in trunking a separate logical connection is created for each VLAN. So instead of a single physical connection, in tagging, switch adds the source port's VLAN identifier to the frame so that other end device can understand what VLAN originated this frame, and based on this information, destination switch can make intelligent forwarding decision on not just destination MAC address but also the source VLAN identifier. Now since original Ethernet frame is modified to add information that is standard, NICs will know understand this information and will typically drop the frame. So if this information goes to the normal machine, it will the NIC for the normal machine will not understand it. It will drop it. Therefore, we need to ensure that when we set up a trunk connection on a switch port, the device at the other end also supports the same trunking protocol and has it configured. If the device at the other end doesn't understand this modification frame, it will drop them. The modification of these frames commonly called tagging, and tagging is in hardware by application specific integrated circuit, that is ASICs, and switch supports two types of Ethernet trunking method, that is inter switch link ISL and IEEE is 802.1q. and if we configure one port with one, then other port must be the same. That means if I convert this port in trunk So it uses the protocol, trunking protocol. If it is using ISL, then the other port also must use the ISL, because it will do what? It will encapsulate the pack according to ISL style, and when it reaches to the destination and it is using 802, then it will not able to open the packet and it will drop it. So both the port, if they are working on trunk, so they should use the same trunking protocol. So we have two trunking protocols, ISLN 802.1Q. Now ISLN 802.1Q, they are different. First, ISL, inter-switch link. This ISL protocol is Cisco proprietary protocol. So first, this ISL is what? Cisco proprietary protocol, and this inter-switch link ISL is available and supported on Cisco product only. Because it is a proprietary, we can use it only on Cisco switches. If you are having another type of switch, it won't work. Then this ISL protocol primarily is used for Ethernet media, that is fast Ethernet or gigabit Ethernet. Cisco has also included provision to carry token ring, FDDI and ATM frames over Ethernet ICL. This ICL protocol encapsulates the entire Ethernet frame, and the entire Ethernet frame, that is a fast Ethernet or gigabit Ethernet, with a 26 byte header and a 4 byte frame checksum, that is FCS, for a total of 30 bytes of overhead. This ISL frame format is shown below. So it is just like this. So when you are having a data packet encapsulated within the layer, like from layer 7 to layer 2 data link layer, so what the switch will do, it will encapsulate the packet with this ISL protocol. So ISL protocol do what? This is our packet encapsulated. So it do what? It adds the extra information. It adds the extra information of 26 bytes. It adds the extra 26 bytes for the ISL, and also 4 byte for error checking. And in this 26 bytes, what it has here is 40 bits for DA, 4 bits for type, 4 bit for user, 48 bits for SA, length, SNAP, HSA, well, and VLAN ID. VLAN ID has having only 15 bits. Then BPDU, then index, then ratio. Now the problem in this is what? Now what happened? Now Cisco itself not using this one. It was created by Cisco. It is a proprietary for Cisco, but now Cisco is not using this. Cisco is now dropped this one. ISL is not using in Cisco switches also. On the Cisco switches also we are using what? 802.1Q. It is standard by IEEE, and now everyone is using this, including Cisco also. Why? Because it is ISL do what? It actually creates unnecessary space. All these values like DA, user, type, SA, length, and all these things are empty. They are just junk values included in these. It is unnecessarily added these fields. It just increase the size of the data. It increase the size of the frame. It increase the size of the packet. 30 bit increase it increases at least 30 bit, and now within the 30 bit, what is the important information? If you can see 30 byte actually, and what is the important information you have? You have only VLAN ID of 15 bit. So it is actually unnecessarily increasing the length of the packet. That is why now everyone using what? IEEE standard 802.1Q protocol, including Cisco itself. So this IEEE 802.1Q VLAN tagging is the industry standard, and ISL is the Cisco proprietary tagging protocol. And if you have networking device from different vendors, then you can use this 802.1Q VLAN tagging must be used for interoperability. That means if you are having one side Cisco and other side other vendor, and you want to do the trunking within them, then you have to use 802.1Q. ICL encapsulation and Ethernet frame with ISL header and FCS, but IEEE 802.1Q What it do, it uses an internal tagging process by inserting the VLAN tagging information inside the Ethernet frame. So instead of adding extra 26 header, what it do here, this 802.1q protocol, it is also called .1q protocol. It do what? It uses the internal process of the framing, and it do what? Internal process of tagging, and add the small bit of data into the same frame. This method of tagging is known as internal tagging. So this .1q trunk supports tag and untag Ethernet frames. Now an untagged Ethernet frame is a standard unrelated Ethernet frame, and untagged Ethernet frames are usually used for the native VLAN communication. That is what our default VLAN 1. And if a switch receives the untagged Ethernet frames on a trunk port, they are considered as a part of the native VLAN, and frames from the native VLAN access port are not tagged when exiting the switch via a native VLAN trunk port. That means whatever the trunk port, whatever the VLAN 1 port data comes and goes, they will remain untagged and they will not send on other port. Now in this tag 802.1q Ethernet frame, a 4-byte yield is inserted between the original Ethernet frame, so source address field, and the type or length field. FCS is recomputed after the 4 bytes tag is inserted. So instead of adding extra 26 byte, what it do, it will add the 4 bytes, 4 byte of data, including it will add into the existing Ethernet frame. Like here, this is our existing Ethernet frame of the data link layer, where we have these other information. In that, what it do, it will add the just 4 byte of data, which consists of TPID of 16-bit, priority bit, SFI bit, and VLAN ID. Only this it will add. So ISL creates 26-bit extra, and it creates only 4 bits. So ISL unnecessarily increasing the size of the packet. So that is why now Cisco itself not using the ISL. In case if you find some old switches, of Cisco, then you will see the ISL option. All the new switches, we don't have ISL. Always you have only .1q. So this is the difference between these two tagging protocols, trunking protocols. This is Cisco proprietary, this is open standard. This native VLAN is tagged in this, it tagged native VLANs also, that means the default VLAN. So if any data comes and goes from the default VLAN, it will also tagged here as a default VLAN, but here it will not tag it. Then encapsulate Ethernet frames and tag Ethernet frames. It will do what? It will encapsulate the Ethernet frame, that means data link header, and add extra 26 bit. But here it only add a 4 bit of information. It just tags the extra information into the same frame instead of modifying and re-encapsulating it. This one do what? Maximum VLAN support is 1000, but here the maximum VLAN support is 4094. Then here header size is 26 byte, and here we have only the size of 4 bytes. Now that is why now Cisco itself is not using this IEEE, this ISL. So now how we can do this? So it is very simple to enable the port and configure. It is very simple to configure the port as a trunk port. So after we configure the port as a trunk, then it will become what? Member of all the VLANs, we can say. That means if any data comes and goes for the any VLAN, it will also go from trunk port. And when it goes from the trunk port, it will have a tag of the VLAN information. That means when it reaches the other machine, then it will know that which VLAN it belongs to. So when we convert this port as a trunk, so it will go to the other switch. From here, whenever any data goes out from this port, it will have a tag of its own VLAN. If it is coming from VLAN A, so the tag will be VLAN A, VLAN ID. If it is coming from VLAN B, then it will tagged as a VLAN B. So when the switch 2 receives the data, it will open the packet and it will see that which VLAN ID is there, and based of that it will send the VLAN ID data to that particular VLAN. So instead of connecting these direct links, we don't need, we can directly connect with only single port. And because this port is having a information, having a transmission of the data from all the VLANs, and if you are having lots of VLANs here, like 10-20 VLANs are there, then what, it can have a very much load on this port or this link. So it must be at least 100 Mbps. And that is why if you look at the switch, if you look at the switch of any switch, maybe you will see two extra port which is having the extra speed than the other port. If you see this, our 260 series switch, so if we see this 260 series switch in the physical view, if you see here, we have these other ports, 24 ports are 100 Mbps, and these two ports are for 1 Gbps. So basically these two ports are faster than the other ports. Why? So that we can connect this port and use this port as a trunk port. We can connect one switch to other switch and the other port to other switch, so that we can do trunking also. Like we have two ports. Why? That means we have, suppose we connect one switch, so we connect one port to other switch, then from the other port we can connect other switch. And that is why in every switch at least you have two ports which is faster than the other ports. So if you are having, suppose if you are having 1 Gbps all the ports, then maybe you are having more than 1 Gbps speed for at least two ports. Now how we can configure this? So this is very easy to convert the port into trunk. Now let's see how we can do that. Now what we did here, we have two switches, we have configured the VLANs on both the switches, same VLANs, but still these same VLANs are not doing communication, because the port which we use to connect to these two switches, the port belongs to the default VLAN, and the port is normally access port. So what we do now, we will convert the port into trunk port. Now that is very simple. How we'll do this? Just go to the switch, and we have to do it on the both of the switches, because both the switches must support the same trunking protocol. So we'll go to the config mode and we will go to the port first. So which port we have connected? So we should check what is the port we have connected here. So we have connected port number 7 here. This is port number 7. We can also verify it by checking the do show IP interface brief command. So we have these ports enabled, port number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 ports are connected to those 6 machines, and this is the 7th port is up, and this is we are connected to that other switch. We can also check MAC address table. Okay, it is empty, but if we can see that, it will show that what port belongs to which VLAN. Okay, now what I will do, I will go to that port. So interface fast Ethernet 0/7. Now I just want to convert this port into trunk port. Now remember, what is the default status of the port? So by default, basically all the ports of the switches are dynamic. They are on dynamic state. If we check, we have a command to convert switch port mode. This is a command to change the mode into trunk or access. But if you give a question mark here, it shows that the port either can be on access or trunk or a dynamic mode. So by default, basically our ports are in dynamic state. Now that is why we do what we do when we join the port into VLAN. When we make a port member of VLAN, then what we do, we purposely change it to access. Why? Because by default it is on dynamic mode, and dynamic desirable. In a dynamic we have two modes. Dynamic, we have two modes in dynamic, auto and desirable. So by default it is on desirable mode. So what we do, we convert them into access when we add them into VLAN, and if we want to convert them into trunk, then we will purposely say switch port mode trunk. This is what changing the port into trunk by manually. Now when I change this, the port is gone down and up again, but it is still not doing anything. I have to check the other port of the other switch. So I have to convert the port of the other switch also on the same trunk port. Only then they can do the communication. Now you see I have not mentioned any trunking protocol, because by default it is only a 802.1q supported. It is not having any other ISL. It is ISL option is also not available. But suppose if you are having an option there, suppose your switch is a old switch and it support ISL also, and you want to convert it into .1q. So you have a command under that port, command port. So after converting it to trunk, you will do what? You will give a command to change the encapsulation protocol. And command is encapsulation. Now command is not working here, and if I give a question mark here, there is no command, there is no such a command encapsulation. So if we want to change the encapsulation protocol from ISL to 802.1q or from 802.1q to ISL, the command is encapsulation, and then after that you will mention the protocol which you want to use. But the command is not available here because by default it is going for .1q protocol. Now same I will do for the other switch also. So I will go to this switch. Now you see both the ports are now up and running. Remember, if the encapsulation protocol is not matching, they will not enable. If the port is not matching, trunking protocol is not matching, then they will not enable, because that means in this switch I configured it to be a trunk port, but in this switch I have not configured to be a trunk port. That means the port will not up, but here the ports are up. Now why the ports are up? Because the ports are in by default state, and that is dynamic desirable. But I don't want the auto thing, so I will do it purposely. I will do it manually. So I will go to the port 0/7 and I will convert it into switch port mode trunk. Now you see it is not going down and up. Why? Because it has already done it. You see it is already gone down and up, and it has already configured it as a trunk. It has already configured as a trunk, and it has not, now it is not going down and up because it is not doing any trunk. It is already configured as a trunk. If you see here, some messages are there. It was gone down here, then it came, it is going down, then it came up here, and then it says line protocol on interface 7 changed to up, and it receives the message that is saying 802.1q on non-trunk VLAN ID, and this is blocking this VLAN 1. VLAN 1 is the default VLAN, it is blocking the VLAN, and which protocol it has using this. So after some time it was in the blocking state, then it will go up. So if I don't do the trunk, if I don't configure this port as a trunk, still it will work as a trunk. Now why it will work? Because the by default port of this, the state of the port is dynamic desirable. So there are different states of the port we have, and those states of the ports are, so these are the different states of the port we have. We have 4. So when we configure the trunk, we have 4 options to choose from. First is trunk. Trunk means the interface is configured into permanently trunking mode and negotiates with the partner with interface to set up the into trunk mode. That means when we configure the port into trunk, so it will become permanently trunk, and it will negotiate with the other side. That means it is connected to the other side, so it will negotiate to the other side, that it will ask the other side, do you want to do trunk, or let's do trunk. It try to negotiate with the other side of the other switch, other port of the switch. If we put it into access, then it will disable port trunk mode, and no trunking negotiation take place. That means it will work as a normal port, and it will not negotiate to other side of the device, and don't want to do the trunk. But in the dynamic state, if it is in dynamic desirable, which is the default one, it enables the interface continuously attempt to convert the link into trunking link, and the interface become a trunk interface if the neighboring interface is set to trunk, desirable, or auto mode. This is the default mode for all the Ethernet interfaces. And dynamic auto means what? Makes the interface to become a trunk only if the connected port is set to trunk desirable. What that means? Every port of the switch is on dynamic desirable mode. Now dynamic desirable mode means what? This port is desired to be the trunk. That means all the port of the switches by default is desired to be the trunk. Desired to be the trunk means what? If suppose any switch, any other side, like this port, we connect this port to other switch here, this port. Now if this port asks this port that do you want to do the trunk, then what? This desirable port will do what? It will automatically convert into trunk. If the other side of the device asks for it, so it is actually desirable, it is desired to be the trunk. Now who will ask this port, this desirable port? The port which is converted into trunk. So if I convert this port as a trunk port, I will give command switch port trunk, switch port mode trunk. That means I have converted this port into permanently trunk. So when it becomes permanently trunk, it will start working as a trunk, and also it will start negotiating. That means it will start send the data, it will start send the request to the other side of the port, and it will say, do you want to be trunk? Now this port is already on desirable mode. So what it will do, it will say yes, I want, and it will convert itself into trunk. And even if you configure this side of the port as a trunk mode auto, dynamic auto, now auto will do what? Auto will do wait for the other side to say, and other side, it is like a desirable, same like a desirable, it is also want to be the trunk. If someone says that you want to be the trunk, for example, if this port is in dynamic auto mode, so it will not convert into trunk. Only it will convert into trunk when other side will say that I want to do trunk with you. So if this port I convert into trunk, if I give a command switch port mode trunk, then it will send the information, send the request to this port, and it says if this port is in auto mode, then what, it will again become trunk. If the port does not have any request, if the port is converted into access port, then it will reject the request and it will not convert into trunk. So very simple, we have two options, two options in the dynamic, which is desirable and auto. And we configure manually trunk. So if one side is desirable and other side is also desirable, that is default. So they will not convert into trunk. Why? Because both are desirable, but both does not request for be the trunk. That means this port will not send any request to the other side to make trunk, and this port will also not send any request to other side that to make a trunk. They will only desirable. They don't send request to be trunk. They are just desirable. So if anyone says I want to do the trunk, then they will make trunk. Now if both the side is in auto, then what they will do? They will do trunk. They will configure themselves as a trunk. Why? Because this port is also desirable and also it is sending the request to the other side that I want to do trunk with you. And this side also it is wanted to be trunk and also it is sending the request to be trunk. So when they get the request to each other, they will create trunk. And when we do configure them manually or permanently trunk, so they will do the trunk. Now in one side, if we have configured trunk and the other side is on desirable, then what happened? This one will not request, desirable will not request, but the port which we convert into trunk, it will send the request to desirable that I want to do trunk, and it will do what? It will create trunk. It will convert itself into trunk, and that is what happened here. I convert this port into trunk, and this port I did not convert, but because it was on desirable, when it gets the request from the other side, it convert itself into trunk. And if suppose this side is in auto mode, dynamic auto, and this side is also dynamic desirable, then also they will create trunk. They will convert into trunk. Why? Auto is ready to be trunk and it is also sending the request to other side, and when this desirable sees the request, it will convert itself into trunk. It says okay, we will do trunking, and because the other side is accepting the request, then this auto will also become trunk. And that is why when we add any port into VLAN, that means we are adding this port and we are connecting only the AND devices, we are connecting only normal machines here. So we convert this port purposely as a access port, so that if suppose any user do what? If any user removes the port from his machine and connect his own switch here, and it converts the port into trunk port, so it will send the request to this port here on the switch, and if it is on desirable mode, then what it will do? It will convert it into trunk. Now what is the risk of converting the port into trunk? It will become member of all the switches, all the VLANs, and it will get all the data from all the VLANs, and that means what? It can get the information, it can get all the informations from the other VLANs also, which I don't want. I want this machine to get only the information from VLAN A, but because it is indesirable, users can do this, and this is a security problem. And that is why when we make a member, when we make port as a member, we run a command switch port mode access, so that it will become permanently access. So if anyone sends the request for doing the trunk, it will not do the trunk. So this is what we have options for converting into trunk. But when you do the trunk, manually configure both the port as a trunk, and if you are using the port for the normal machine, so manually configure them as a access to be secure. So what we did here, we convert these port from both the switches. From switch 1 I convert this port into trunk, from switch 2 I convert this port into trunk. Now what, these ports, these VLANs can do communication to each other. That means from switch 1 VLAN A can do the communication to switch 2 VLAN A. Switch A VLAN B can communicate to switch 2 VLAN B, but they will not do the communication with the other VLANs. Other VLANs like VLAN A cannot do communication with VLAN B or C, and VLAN B cannot do the communication between VLAN A or C. Now let's check. We will check it. So I will try to do ping from this machine which is in VLAN A to these two machines. So I will try now. Previously it was getting timeout. It was getting timeout. So now I will try again, and now I can get the reply. So I'm getting the reply from this PC1. Why? Because it is also from VLAN A. I can also get the reply from PC2. Why? Because it is also belongs to the same VLAN. But if I try to get reply from these other VLAN machines, like for example 3, it is not getting the reply because it belongs to different VLAN. It is not sending any reply. If I try to ping this 5 or 6, it is also not getting the reply because they are belong to VLAN B and C. So VLAN B and C can only communicate to VLAN B and C. VLAN A to A, VLAN B to B, VLAN C to C. And also it is from the different switch. So this B can communicate with this B. So if I try to ping 192.168.1.1 from here, it will not get the reply because it is from VLAN A. But if I try to ping VLAN the other like 3, it can get reply because it belongs to same VLAN. Also 4. But if I try to ping for VLAN C, the IP6, it will not ping because it belongs to the other VLAN. So this is how we can do scale the VLAN infrastructure from one switch to other switch by using the trunk port. So by using the port and by using converting into the trunk port, trunk link, we can scale the network, we can scale our VLAN from one switch to other switch. And this is called intra VLAN communication. Why it is intra, that means same VLAN to same VLAN, VLAN A to A, B to B, C to Z from the other switches or other switches. Like I can connect more switches and I can convert them into trunk, and then I can do the VLAN can do the communication between each other. For verifying the VLAN configurations, we can run show VLAN command. It will show you all the available VLANs and all the ports which is member of the VLANs. Then we can go for show VLAN ID command with the VLAN ID to see the VLAN information, that particular VLAN information. And you can also use the show interface and interface number switch port command to display the VLAN information on the particular interface, as well as the interface administrative and operational mode like access or trunk. It is like this. We can use this command show interface, then number of the name and number of the port with switch port command to get the information about the VLAN, that particular port. Then we can use the command to see the trunk ports, show interface trunk port, to see the ports which is working as a trunk. So in this switch, I go to this and I want to verify, so I can give show VLAN brief, or suppose only show VLAN, it will show detailed information about VLAN. And if you want to see the brief information, then you will give brief. So these are the VLANs we have, the port of the member, the port member ports we have. Then we can give command show interface fast Ethernet 0/7. This is the port we converted into the trunk port. And you see here, if you see the ports here, this is our default VLAN, and what port it contains, it is from fast Ethernet 8 to all the ports, to all 24 ports. And then VLAN A has fast Ethernet 1 to N2, B has 2 and 4, 3 and 4, and C has 5 and 6. If you see, there is no 7. 7 is missing from here. It is not having any information that is it in VLAN 1 or is it in VLAN 2 or 3 or 4. So it is missing here. Why? Because we convert it into trunk. So we want to see the information about it, then we can give a command show interface fast Ethernet 0/7, the number, and then we will give command switch port. So it shows all the information about this port. What it is showing here, that this is the port name, number, switch port is enabled here, and administrative mode is what? Trunk. Administrative mode, that means we have converted into trunk permanently, and operational mode as also trunk. Right now it is also working as a trunk. Now administrative trunking encapsulation protocol is .1q. .1q means 802.1q. It is also called .1q because we administratively converted into trunk, and operational trunking protocol is also the same. So negotiation is on, so it is doing the negotiation. Access mode VLAN 1. This is by default, the default it is the part of VLAN 1. It is, this port is member of VLAN 1. Trunking native mode VLAN 1, it is doing trunking for native VLAN 1. Voice VLAN we don't have, and this is the administrative private VLANs, none, but trunk we have for .1q encapsulation. Operation is none. Then we have here trunking VLANs enable, how much VLAN it supports. Pruning VLANs enable is 2 from 1001. Capture mode disable, capture VLANs all. Right now we are not capturing anything. And this is application trust, none, we have not configured any trust also. So basically it is showing you the all information about the port. Like for example, if I check the information about port 1, this is not a trunk port, this is a normal port. So you can see the administrative mode is static access. Static access, that means I have manually configured it to static access mode, and that is why it is operational and manual, both are access. Now if you don't convert it, then what it shows here, if suppose I try to see the port number 8, it is not connected. So what it is showing here, switch port is enabled, but the administrative mode is what? Dynamic auto. It is in dynamic state. Right now it is no operational mode because the port is not connected. Operational mode, like if you connect it into PC, then it will change it to access, and if you connect it into other switch which is doing the trunk, then it will convert it into trunk automatically, because it is by default into in a auto mode. show interfaces trunk, it shows that which port is working for trunk. So we have port number 7, which is on. Encapsulation is 802.1q. Trunking status is on, it is doing trunking. Native VLAN is 1, VLAN 1. Port is VLAN allowed. These all VLANs are allowed, and VLANs allowed and active in management domain is 1, 2, 3, 4. These are allowed, these are active. And ports VLAN in spanning tree, forwarding state and not pruned. These are the VLANs 1, 2, 3 and 4. VLAN 1 is the native VLAN, VLAN 2 is the VLAN A, VLAN 3 is VLAN B, VLAN 4 is VLAN C. So all these 4 VLANs are active and they are also forwarding. So this is how we can check and verify the VLAN configurations and also the trunking configurations. Now I have one switch here, and in that switch I have 3 VLANs, VLAN A, B and C. Now previously what we did is intra VLAN communication. That means we have a same VLAN on 2 different or 3 different switches, and we want to do the communication between those same VLANs like A to A, B to B or C to C. But this time I want to do communication between 2 different VLANs, from VLAN A to B, B to C, C to A and B. But the first question is why I want to do this. Why I want to do this? If I want to do the communication between VLAN A, B and C together, then why we did the VLAN? Why we configure the VLAN? We should have put no VLANs and they all can communicate to each other. If we have not configured the VLAN, they all can communicate. So why we, in the first place, why we configure the VLANs? And now after configuring the VLAN, we separated them. Now we want them to communicate to each other. What is this? So first, why we want to do this? Now for that you have to remember why we configure the VLANs. We configure the VLAN to separate the broadcast domain, to separate these different departments, we can say, like we do subnetting. So basically why we configure the VLANs? Because I did the subnetting. I did subnetting to separate the departments. This is department A, department B, department C. I have 4 different departments and I don't want them to communicate to each other normally. I want them to separate. I want them that if any problem happens in department A, it should not affect the problem the department C. They are my different departments, so I just want them to be different. Now because they are a same department, they are from my same company, so sometimes they should do communication. They should not be always separated. By default what we separated is the broadcast, that not intentionally, unintentionally, if suppose the broadcast release from the department A, then it should not go to department B and C. That is why I did subnetting. But subnetting is what? Layer 3 thing. I did subnetting in IP addresses. But switch does not understand the IP addresses. So switch is still sending the broadcast packets. So I did what? I created the VLANs to separate them. So basically what we have in VLAN A, I have a one subnet. Then the other subnet I have in VLAN B, and other subnet I have in VLAN C. So basically these 2 subnets, 2 different subnets or 3 different subnets will never do communication, because instead they are in same LAN. Suppose if I connect them into same VLAN, still they will not do the communication. The broadcast will go to each other, but still we can't send and receive the data, because basically they are from different network. That means VLAN A is having a different network, VLAN B is having a different network, and VLAN C is having a different network. So basically we know that different networks cannot do communication to each other, whether they are connected to same switch or same VLAN. So if we want to do communication between two different VLANs, or suppose basically I'm saying two different subnets or two different networks, then we need a router, because only router can do communication between two different network. So from beginning, what I create subnetting first. What I create subnetting, I divide three subnets. Why I divide? Because I want to separate them. There are my different departments, I want to separate them, so I did subnetting, but I connect them together into the same switch, so it was not separating in layer 2. So what I did on layer 2, I created the VLANs. So basically they are different. Not only they are different VLANs, they are different subnets. So when we say that we want to do the communication between two different VLANs, we want to do the inter-VLAN communication. That means we are saying that we want to do the communication between two different network. So basically we are not communicating between two different VLANs, we are doing the communication between two different networks. And for doing the communication between two different networks, we need router. So when we say inter VLAN, it is not inter VLAN, it is inter VLAN routing. Just like we do routing with the RIP, OSPF or EIGRP, this is also what it is, also basically what a routing. It is called inter VLAN routing. So if we want to do communication between two different VLANs, that means we want to do the communication between two different subnets, and for that we need router. Now how we will do that? Now first option I have, I will use one router here. Then I will connect the Ethernet port of that router into this VLAN, member of this VLAN. So all the data which comes from this VLAN will also reach to the router. And so that I will add the default gateway in all the machines here. Now here default gateway will be important. So all the machines which is in the VLAN A will have a default gateway of this router. Then I will use one more router here, and the Ethernet port of this router I will connect to this VLAN. That means I will make the port member of this VLAN. Now all the machines belongs to this VLAN will have a default gateway of this router. Then what I will do, I will connect these two routers with the serial port or whatever, and then I will do what? I will configure one IP here, which is the gateway for VLAN A. I will configure one IP here, which is the gateway for VLAN C. Remember, these are different subnets, so they are different. Now what? I will configure one network IP here also, so that I can do communication. Then on these two routers I will configure any routing protocol, for example RIP, OSPF or EIGRP, whatever. So what happened? It is like what I am doing normal routing. So what? The data from VLAN A will go to VLAN C through these two routers, like we do normal routing. What it will do? It will go from router, and then this router will send to this router, and this router will send to this switch to this VLAN, and from this VLAN it will reach to the machine. But okay, we have one more VLAN here, B. So I will do what? I will use one more router here, and then I will use the Ethernet port to add into this VLAN, and then I will connect these routers also, and then I will configure routing protocol here also. So then what? I will do routing for VLANs. So this VLAN A will do communication to B and B to C, but when they send the broadcast, router will not forward the broadcast, it will break the broadcast. Only if VLAN A send any mail to VLAN B or C, it will go through this router. So this is how we can do. It's very simple and easy, but it is having a problem. Now the problem is what? For only one switch, I'm using 3 routers. What happens if I have 10 VLANs? That means I need 10 routers. That is very costly. If you do like this, then your company will say, don't create VLANs, leave it as it is. I don't need. It's very expensive. So don't. This idea is fail. We are not able to do this one. Now what? I have another idea. So what I will do, I will use only one router. Now I will use only one router, and in that router I will use one Ethernet port, and I will connect that port into this VLAN A. Then I will use the other Ethernet port and I will connect it to this VLAN. Then I will use another port and I will connect it to this VLAN. Now I will configure IP addresses on these VLANs, these ports from these VLANs, like the network IP of this VLAN. I will configure the same network IP here in this port, and all the machines of this VLAN will get the gateway of this port, same as for B and C. Then I just enable the port, and then when our router is running, then what they can do the communication. That means if anyone sends the data to VLAN from VLAN A, it will go to the router checks the data belongs to the other port, the other network. And where is the network? So the network is on this port, so it will send the data to this port, and the data the data will reach to this port, and the port is in the VLAN C, so it will reach the VLAN C, and the data will be received by the machine of VLAN C. Now this is the option I have, and this is also easy. Now this is cheaper than the other for the previous one, but this is also have a problem. Now what is the problem here? Now in first place, here I have only 3 VLANs, but for example you are having 10 or 20 VLANs, then how many ports you can have in a single router? It is very difficult to have these number of ports, and for that you need very higher end of router. So you need a router which is having multiple different ports. And one more problem, if suppose it is having a 10 VLANs we have on the switch, or 20 VLANs we have on the switch, but remember how many ports we have on the switch? We have only 24 ports. So how many ports we can connect for the router? Maybe we get the 20 port on router, but if we connect every port for every VLAN we connect one port, then how many ports we lose? We lose almost 20 ports from the switch. So how many ports will remain for the other things, other machines? Very hard. So this one will also fail. Now what we can use now? Now the last option I will show you. This is the one which we use normally. What we'll do here? We use a single router where I have only single interface, and I will connect that interface to the switch. Now remember, I am not connecting this port in any VLAN of the switch. I am connecting the router into a single port of the switch. Now what I will do here, on this port of the switch, I will convert this port into trunk. I will convert this port to trunk first. Now remember, when it becomes the trunk port, then what? It is the member of all the VLANs. It can send and receive data from all the VLANs. And also, when it sends and receives the data from this port, it will also tag the data with the VLAN ID. So when the data reaches to the router, it knows that the data belongs to which ID, which VLAN. Now what I will do here, in the router I have only one port. So what I will do, we can convert this single physical port, we can create multiple logical ports. and you can create millions of logical ports. So what I will do, I will create this physical port. Suppose this physical port is uh, fast Ethernet 0/0 of router. So I can create different multiple logical interfaces. One interface I will create for one VLAN C, then one for VLAN B. These are logical ports, one for VLAN A, and you can create millions of different different logical interfaces. So no matter how many VLANs you have, you can create logical interface for each and every VLAN. And the VLAN number, the port number, the virtual port number will be like fast Ethernet 0/0. This is the physical number, and then you will put dot here, and after that dot, when you give a question mark, you will see the millions of number. So you can choose any number of virtual port. You can choose 1, you can choose 2, you can choose 100, 1000, 1000, 3000, 1 million, whatever. Now what I will do, I will configure this port, these all logical port, with the IP address of these networks first, which will be the gateway for these all different subnets. And also what I will do, I will dedicate this port, virtual port, to that particular VLAN. That means what I will do here, I will tag the data on that port also. Just like the trunk port we have on the switch, when the data goes out, it will tagged with the VLAN ID. What I will do, I will convert this physical port of the router also in some way. We can say it is trunk. That means whenever any data goes out of this port, it will have an information about the virtual interface and also the VLAN ID, so that when the data reaches the switch, then what, the switch will know that the data belongs to which VLAN. So in this case, what we do, we can have 10 VLANs, 20 VLANs, no matter, we can have a virtual interface for all VLANs, and we don't have to connect multiple physical links. We just have to connect only single physical link. That means on the switch we will lose only one interface for this VLAN routing. We don't have to use multiple interfaces, like each interface for each VLAN. Like if you are having 20 VLANs, then 20 interface you have to use. We don't have to do that. We can use it only from the one link. So we can do this, and we can configure this also. Now here, this is the real configuration. It looks like we can use this one apart from these other two, but this one is also having a small problem. What is the problem? First, this port of the router must be 100 Mbps. If it is less than 100 Mbps, for example, if the router you have is 250 series, and that series have only 10 Mbps port for Ethernet, and also it's a fixed port router, that means you cannot add any other port also. So you can't do this thing. This thing is not supported. Now if you try this thing again, if you are having 2500 series router, then again you cannot do this, because 2500 series router is having only one port, and that is fixed. You cannot add any other port. For doing this, you need a modular router which can add multiple Ethernet port. So if your router is not modular, if it is having a fixed port, then you cannot do this also. So what is remaining option you have? You have this remaining option, and this is what very costly. So instead of doing this, just change your router. Change your router to a big router which can have a fast Ethernet or gigabit Ethernet port, and it may be modular, so that you can configure this third option or third type. So this is what we have. This, it is called inter-VLAN routing, because we are doing what? We are doing communication between two different VLANs, and also two different VLANs, that means two different subnets, and that we can do only by doing the routing, and this is called inter-VLAN routing.